In 2016, deep inside a cave in South Africa, scientists pulled a single bone out of the rock, a foot bone, 1.7 million years old, and growing inside it was something that by every assumption we have about the modern world should not have been there. A tumor, malignant, aggressive, the same disease that fills hospitals today. It was sitting inside a creature that died before our species even existed, before farming, before language, before the first word was ever spoken out loud. This is the story of the oldest enemy the human lineage has ever faced. And almost everything you've been told about it is wrong, because here's what most people believe. We think cancer is a modern invention. We blame processed food, pollution, sitting too much, screens and chemicals in everything we touch. And those things do matter, they're real, but they are not where this story starts. The truth is older than civilization, older than humanity, older than fire, and that bone in South Africa is just the beginning of the evidence. The foot bone showed unmistakable signs of osteosarcoma, an aggressive bone cancer. This wasn't a crack. It wasn't an old injury healing incorrectly. The bone was being eaten and reshaped from the inside by a tumor. Scientists couldn't even pin it to a single species. It belonged to one of our distant relatives, walking that landscape nearly 2 million years ago. And it wasn't alone. In the same region, researchers found a benign tumor buried in the spine of Australopithecus sediba, a skeleton almost 2 million years old. Scientists call these growths neoplasms. Finding them this deep in the fossil record tells us something that should stop you cold. Cancer is not new. Cancer is ancient. But here's the unsettling part. What we've found is almost nothing compared to what was actually there. Because cancer mostly attacks soft tissue, organs, skin, blood, and soft tissue doesn't fossilize. It rots away over thousands of years and vanishes completely. What survives is bone. So every ancient cancer we've ever discovered is only the tiny fraction that managed to scar something hard. Scientists call this preservation bias. The real number, the cancers that left no trace at all, is almost certainly staggering. Which is exactly why mummies became so valuable. Mummies preserve the soft tissue that the fossil record loses, and when researchers ran CT scans through Egyptian mummies thousands of years old, they found tumors hiding inside them. One study alone scanned 137 mummies, and cancer was waiting in several of them. But ancient people didn't just carry cancer, they wrote about it. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, from around 1600 BCE, describes bulging tumors of the breast. And next to them, the physician wrote a single devastating line: "There is no treatment." A frank, hopeless verdict written nearly 4,000 years ago. Then came the Greeks. Around 400 BCE, the physician Hippocrates looked at a tumor and saw the swollen veins spreading out from it like legs. To him, it looked like a crab digging into the body. So he named it karkinos, the Greek word for crab. Centuries later, a Roman physician translated that into Latin: cancer. The exact word we still whisper in hospital rooms today. For thousands of years, across civilization after civilization, humans watched this disease take their families and had no idea what it even was. So to understand why it's this old, you have to understand what cancer really is. It starts with one cell, and one mistake. Every time a cell divides, it has to copy its entire DNA, billions of letters, perfectly. Most of the time, the body catches the typos and fixes them. But sometimes one slips through. That cell starts dividing when it shouldn't. It ignores every signal to stop. It builds into a mass, and it begins to invade everything around it. And here's the key. These mutations aren't a malfunction of modern life. They are built into the act of being alive. The more cells you have, and the longer you live, the more chances something goes wrong. Which means cancer was never just a human problem. Dinosaurs got cancer. Ancient fish got cancer. Even trees get cancer. It is woven into the deepest fabric of multicellular life itself. So did ancient humans actually get cancer less than we do? Honestly, probably yes. But not for the reason you'd expect. The biggest reason wasn't their diet. It was time. Most ancient humans died young. Infection, injury, predators, starvation. The average prehistoric life expectancy was somewhere around 25 to 35 years. And cancer needs time. Most cancers develop after the age of 50. If a tooth infection or a lion kills you at 30, cancer simply never gets the chance to appear. They had fewer modern triggers. That's true. No cigarettes, no industrial chemicals. But they weren't living in some cancer-free paradise either. Smoke from cooking fires scarred their lungs. Chronic infections drove inflammation. Years under the sun with no protection raised their skin cancer risk. They were just dying of other things first. So why does it feel like cancer is everywhere now? Two reasons. First, we live long enough to reach the age where it strikes. Millions of us now make it into our 60s, 70s, and 80s, the exact window cancer was waiting for. And second, we can finally see it. We can spot a tumor the size of a fingernail buried deep inside the body. Ancient physicians could only find what bulged through the skin. Everything internal stayed invisible. We didn't necessarily invent cancer, we just survived long enough to meet it. But this ancient history isn't just a grim story, it's becoming a weapon. Because if cancer has stalked life for millions of years, then evolution has had millions of years to fight it. And some animals figured it out. Take elephants. They're enormous. They live for decades. By the logic of more cells and more time, they should be riddled with cancer. They're not. It turns out elephants carry roughly 20 copies of a cancer-suppressing gene called TP53. Humans carry just one, 20 built-in guardians scanning for damage and destroying broken cells before they can ever turn deadly. Scientists are studying those genes right now, trying to borrow nature's ancient defenses and turn them into treatments for us. The fossil record is helping too. By comparing tumors across millions of years, researchers can watch how this disease evolves and what conditions wake it up. Cancer was never just a medical problem, it's an evolutionary puzzle. One life has been quietly solving for far longer than we've existed. A 1.7 million-year-old bone, a tumor, a creature that lived before fire, before language, before us. Cancer was already there. It is one of the oldest adversaries our lineage has ever known, and for the very first time in that long, brutal history, we finally have the tools to fight back.